But the subject matter in episode 4 is extremely serious.
This you?
Got little boy dream. Hey, got 12-year-old Snapchat today.
Extremely serious.
This you?
I'm a fucking keeper. Give 100 kids 100 ways. It ain't even legal.
Extremely serious.
This you? This you? This you?
Yes, because you certainly know about handling serious topics, right? That's why, before Dream could make his official response to the serious allegations, you created a 30-minute mix track falsely accusing him of doing that exact act, right?
The subject matter in episode 4 is extremely serious.
And it's portrayed in a serious way. That's why when Angel Dust and Valentino approach their dressing room, any and all music is removed.
A confrontation between Angel and Val in his dressing room is intentionally shot in dark lighting using uncomfortably close upward angles that emphasize Val's overwhelming stature to help us see us from Angel's perspective. There's also a distinct lack of comedy or background music compared to every other scene with Angel so far, indicating that this is being presented in a more personal, realistic manner.
So you can truly understand how much of a monster Valentino truly is.
I know I'm not the easiest YouTuber to take seriously.
If making a 30-minute mixtape was supposed to be a joke, well, I don't think Dream's family, who have been consistently harassed for this, Dream's workers who were getting falsely accused of working for a P-word.
People will take a claim with almost no evidence and run with it and ruin people's lives, hundreds of jobs, families.
Found it very funny at all. Quite literally, all you did was make the harassment towards Dream and all of the workers 10 times worse based on falsified allegations that weren't true.
Nicholas Cantu, Gumball Watterson called Dream a pedophile. Dream is not a pedophile. As a result, Dream posted the video to show how unhinged Nicholas Cantu is, which he was right.
You literally still have the mixtape up on your second channel.
In the case of a Hazbin Hotel, Vivzie has made it utterly unavoidable. And furthermore, this issue is absolutely complicated.
So you acknowledge that these situations are complicated, but then make a mixtape about Dream where you say things like this.
Don't you know she ain't legal? This ain't no facade, baby girl. I'm a pedophile. I've been grooming on Ike, then I moved to my boy Kyle.
This mixtape was clearly supposed to be a haha joke to you. And before you bring up the Ken Draw situation, these two things are not the same. They're both horrible acts by both creators, but Vivziepop spread this narrative through one person only in private DMs, whilst this guy turned someone being falsely accused with one of the worst things ever into a haha public joke publicly on his YouTube channel. The other, private, both bad, but when you acknowledge the context, one is clearly having a bigger intent to damage someone's reputation. Still, regardless, both you and Vivziepop accuse people of being the worst things ever in history and pray that they didn't actually respond towards your claims.
But with that being said, you need to be very, very, very careful when doing so.
I don't get little kids, I only get high schoolers.
You need to be very, very, very careful.
Yeah, can't come without my mask. Yeah, can't come without my grooming a kid, grooming a kid, grooming a kid, grooming a kid. CP make me rich.
It's also important to not just make it a cheap backstory, or furthermore, cheap shock value.
You uploaded a 30-minute mixtape basically joking about someone else being a PDF file. Clearly you see this topic as something to make fun of and for shock value. Or is it only a problem when other people do it and not yourself?
For one thing, for the first 3 episodes, Angel Dust comes off as just a walking sex joke.
Yeah, big shocker, that's kind of the point. Like some SA victims use joking about their experiences as a way to better cope with what's going on in regards to their situation and real life.
Now, there is some build-up towards episode 4 and the events that happen in it, but the show's rushed pacing I mentioned earlier makes these scenes flash by way too fast in my opinion.
How is a slowed down scene where there's no music showcasing Valentino, an absolute monster, rushed?
And while the episode did overall, I feel, give depth to Angel Dust, and I do believe there was no actual intent to romanticize it whatsoever, the sloppy writing and Angel Dust's one-note character in the first 3 episodes add up to this revelation feeling much more cheap and last minute than it was intended.
Now, if you want to state that the build-up of Angel Dust's character before episode 4 was sloppy, fine, but that has little effect on episode 4 in its own bubble. The daunting effects of SA and relationship misconduct are its own sole episode 4 presentation. You can't use the rest of the series as a way to get episode 4's SA writing solely. You need to actually explain what episode 4 did wrong in a bubble in terms of character presentation and actual writing.
Angel Dust's one-note character in the first 3 episodes add up to this revelation feeling much more cheap and last minute than it was intended to.
Imagine talking about cheap and last minute when you, Dumbsville, quite literally made a mixtape falsely accusing Dream of being one of the worst things ever, only days before Dream released his official debunking response towards these falsified allegations. Do not try and pull the cheap and last minute card, because your transgressions are just as bad, if not worse, than what Vivziepop and the writing staff have ever committed.
Furthermore, this part of Angel Dust is rarely explored anywhere else in the show.
Okay, you're not slick with the upper text box, bro. Please explain how it's shitty to have another complimenting scene in episode 6 where Angel Dust actually stands up against his manipulator, Valentino, inside of a crowded bar in an attempt to protect the well-being and safety of one of his friends who could have ended up also becoming victimized by Valentino in the future.
Fuck off, Val.
Excuse me?
I may have to put up with your bullshit, but you ain't fucking with any of my friends.
This is again just a problem with the show having too many things going on in it.
Finally, a thing we can agree on. Yes, I completely agree as well. Jumbling all of these new settings, new character developments, and conflicts into an episode 8 run was ridiculous. Season 1 could have been way better if they either spaced out the conflict to more than 8 episodes, thus giving them more time to divulge into various settings, or character developments, or conflicts without rushing it all together, or simply saving some of the other factors they wanted to divulge into the next season, thus allowing a better stretch of more understandable and acknowledgement effects for their audience watching.
Which gives off a really bad impression that the show is rushing this super serious stuff.
And this is the part where I disagree. You acknowledge the whole show. Yes, the pacing is rushed. However, when you look at episode 4 and its moments of handling the essay scenes in a bubble, no, it's not rushed, as every single essay moment is appropriately slowed down and monotone, allowing you as a viewer to understand the true horror that Angel Dust goes through when he doesn't blindly agree with everything his master manipulator Valentino orders him to do.
Showing a less exaggerated, timidly quiet version of Angel we've never seen before. It's a short look behind the bubbly mask his character's worn from the start of the series that he forces himself to put back on for his musical number, Poison.
Why are you trying to encompass the rest of the show's pacing and writing style as if that's an appropriate frame of reference, when your literal sole focus is the episode itself and these scenes as an entirety?
In episode 4, a lot of this stuff is really well written in isolation, but really last minute in context.
The show's overall frame and theme has nothing to do with how episode 4 presents itself or these scenes, just like how you're addressing this topic in a different manner to how you address the serious allegations towards Dream. Now you're addressing it with supposed careful tiptoeing, but not too long ago, you were literally releasing a mixtape that went, haha, this guy is a PDF file, which is false. Dream had posted numerous times on X that he was going to address these allegations in a decisive response video on his main channel. Why did you upload this mixtape before his response? Or better yet, not released it at all?
Being played over a quirky musical number.
The musical number was not quirky. The Poison music video appropriately showcases the horror of Angel Dust and Valentino's relationship demographic by showcasing how while everything looks nice and bubbly, while the cameras are rolling, when they aren't rolling or are off screen, the daunting shadow over Angel Dust from Valentino, that's when you're made aware of the true horrors regarding how this Valentino pimp treats Angel Dust off camera, because that's how these industries actually work.
A sinister pop song describing how Angel allowed himself to fall into the toxic arms of Val, but isn't able to escape. So his coping mechanism is to dissociate and put on the act we've watched him do across the series, attempting to reclaim his sexuality through fake smiles and being overly suggestive while his true self struggles behind him.
All while forgetting to release with a content warning?
Liar!
Okay, this is a straight up lie. Literally, when you click the Amazon Prime episode, the Prime video literally puts a blatant disclaimer letting you know that these potentially triggering topics are there. Should they have put a little bit more effort into the disclaimer? Sure, but to act like just because they didn't put a black bar, that means there wasn't any disclaimer is absolutely untrue and a ridiculous line of logic to go by.
Furthermore, I think the Poison song number itself is just pretty distasteful. Not only is the song itself way too on the nose.
Why would it being on the nose be bad? Would you rather them not be distinct and confuse people?
This is the type of lifestyle people in these situations actually live. And the whole point is that Angel doesn't actually enjoy any of this. He's just doing what he has to do to survive. You see him put a character on at the very beginning just so he can even survive the shoot, and how at the very end, this character breaks down and we see his real feelings. This behavior is self-destructive. The lyrics of the song literally spell it out.
But I really just don't think showing SA during a pop song is the right move at all.
There was no essay in the song. The camera literally cuts before anything sexual or intercourse-like comes on the screen.
None of what Angel's forced to do during this sequence is ever graphically showcased or held on, instead cutting away right before things can get too explicit, but we can understand enough through implication that it seriously damages him and weighs on his mind at all times, explaining Angel's over-reliance on alcohol, substances, and denial.
The next part is him listing 2 shows as an example and then not showing any clips to back up his claims, like, can you show some source clips so I know what you're talking about to address this point?
Silent Hill 2 being my favorite example. Without going on any long tangents, that game expects you to connect the dots, while also very maturely diving into its character and the themes behind her, which is why the character of Angela is so revered to this day.
And so what that Silent Hill addressed it in a more subtle way. Again, the 2 frames here you're addressed aren't all that equal. This Silent Hill you mentioned is a horror-themed video game, whilst Hazbin Hotel is an animated cartoon. Of course they're gonna present their themes differently. They're 2 different mediums and genres of content.
And what's weird is that this episode does include these elements. Again, the scene with Angel and Valentino is very much uncomfortable, but very well done. It's a really great example of the power of implication. But graphically showing the SA really does harm it drastically.
Yeah, it's portrayed like that because all of this is in his private dressing room, in drastic comparison to the Poison song where it's half filmed in the studio, half off camera, and out of frame, as showcased by how everything looks nice and bubbly while the cameras are rolling, but when they aren't rolling and off screen, we see the daunting shadow over Angel Dust from Valentino. When you're made aware of the true horrors regarding how this Valentino pimp treats Angel Dust off camera, like, that's how these industries actually work. Also, there was no essay in the song. The camera literally cuts before anything sexual or intercourse-like comes on screen. How is having off-screen and out-of-frame implied sexual misconduct bad? Should people not be open about the true horrors of what goes on in the sex trafficking industry?
We're also making Angel Dust way too simple of a character for most of the show.
Now here's a decent criticism. Angel Dust is for sure way too simple of a character, but I think that's more so a combination of the factor being that the writing kind of has made every character really bare bones to start off with.
The show should have maybe been about these more darker elements while also being more tasteful about them.
How is showcasing the raw, unfiltered, and uncensored truth about the horrors within the sexing industry not tasteful? The rest of the thread's message she shows are things that I've already covered in my previous Hazbin Hotel iceberg. Ultimately, the controversy within this episode stems from an artist who essentially worked on episode 4, having drawn inappropriate art that ships Valentino and Angel Dust. And ultimately, while from a personal standpoint, I wouldn't have hired Raph. I'm not gonna say that Raphael should be fired or deplatformed from his job. I do not agree with the idea of deplatforming or cancel culture like that. And again, we all know if anyone were to try and report Raph's art to the police, they would get laughed the fuck out of the station. Also, as I said in my comment towards someone who opposed me, it's ridiculous to demand Vivziepop fire anybody just because you don't like them as a worker. Props to Vivziepop for not giving these crybabies on the internet what they actually want and saying, hey, I'm not gonna fire someone who needs this job to pay for their livelihood just because you're upset. They've done nothing wrong in the workplace. Get lost.
But I don't understand, ironically, invalidating other SA victims.
This is not at all what she did. Literally, the message starts with, like all survivors, I'm sorry for what you went through, but you have no fucking right to speak over other survivors saying the opposite. You have every right to be uncomfortable with my show, but my show has no fetishization. I guess telling people that their feelings are valid but stomping out misinformation is wrong? Again, just like your 30-minute mixtape, we could apply this same exact logic here. Regardless of what your feelings were or reasoning for uploading that mixtape, whether valid or not, ultimately Dream's response video collectively proved that everything you said within it was borderline defamatory.
And after a lot of digging, my legal team was able to track down exactly where this picture is from, then had someone go to the police station and requested specific records from this specific police station.
I didn't find anything under either one of those names.
So you're not listed in my system at all.
You have to believe either one of these two things. Either one, she lied, this photo is fake, she never filed anything, and if she's lying about that, why would she not be lying about literally everything else? Or two, the picture is real, and whatever story she told didn't even meet the minimum required standard of proof to file a single piece of paperwork that my legal team could find in over a year and a half. Not a single question, there was not a single case, accusation, or anything substantial enough to even have me in any system.
Wait, this is the girl that falsely accused him of being a file. Dream posted like an hour-long video debunking all of this. This girl was an insane person, by the way. She lied and said she went to the police station to report him and nothing came of it. This girl is a pathological liar.
Let's read the next part. A lot of SA victims develop kinks to cope with trauma that you deem fetishized, and I stand by them as well. Goodbye. This part is true. And overall, again, while you can disagree with Vivziepop's stance, her defense is pretty much correct. Like, how exactly does the art this man makes on his own X profile have any effect on a corporate piece of media managed by Vivziepop, Amazon Prime, multiple team members, writers, and artists? These people do understand that if Raph unironically made pro-SA work for the show, Viv, Amazon Prime, and every other staff member would put a stop to it or speak out about it. What Vivziepop says in the segment, every show has crew or ship things or like things that is valid. We could use that in this exact situation. Is every single person who's collabing with you or friends with you now condoning your 30-minute dream mixtape? No, because your friends, workers, and family can be associated with you but also not condone every single one of your actions or behaviors.
Her point is the exact point I would use to argue against her depiction of SA in this episode.
I failed to see what she did wrong here. Again, what is the problem in showcasing people 100% raw, unfiltered, and the actual reality of what goes on in these industries or film productions? What is wrong with that?
Yes, all survivors deserve representation.
I mean, what you just said right here basically sums up Vivziepop's entire tweet response. There were some people who appreciated it, some who didn't, and Vivziepop told all of them that their feelings were valid, and then Vivziepop said, I'm not gonna fire this person just because we have different perspectives and different points. That's called life. You do not want to live in a world where someone could quite literally have their livelihood of money making terminated just because people demand they be fired because they oppose what they think that is not free speech, that is the opposite of the First Amendment.
And because of that, it's important to be at least somewhat balanced.
How is it unbalanced? What way can you present sex trafficking and the industry surrounding it? Besides, let's just show you the true horrors of what goes on within these businesses.
And it's, in my opinion, really fucked up that Vivzie didn't put this in mind.
She did put it in mind. You're using the opposing side's reactions as an innate way to say, oh, she didn't put everyone's feelings in mind, when in reality, that's not how the world works. Regardless of what you say or do, someone is not gonna agree with you or like that statement, and that's okay. That's real life. That's called being humans. This is ironic considering you say things such as,
at the end of the day, these are regular people,
and then fail to realize that every single person making a tweet in positive or negative about this topic is a person behind the screen and not a robot.
My point is that this was grossly mishandled.
This you?
I love kids, okay? Yeah, they make me spray.
Grossly mishandled.
I got hella hoes and they all 13 years old.
Oh wait, you serious? Let me laugh even harder.
Now, there is controversy with the storyboard artist that's been going around, but I'm gonna be honest, I want this video to say a review of the show.
When it comes to the storyboard artist thing, I've already addressed this in my Hazbin Hotel iceberg. Like, have these people never worked in the art industry or workforce? Like, what do you think happens when someone does something inappropriate in the workplace? They get fucking reported. Raph didn't get reported because at the workplace, he didn't do anything inappropriate or wrong. He simply did what Vivziepop told him to do in a responsible and timely manner. Again, all Vivziepop quite literally said is basically, I don't care what you post on your social media. If you're able to do the tasks that I order you to do at work properly, then we're all good. Ah yes, God forbid Vivziepop openly say that she won't fire you for social media posts you make. Yeah guys, it's called Free Speech 101. And I've even had people from the opposing view from the comments have civil discussions with me about this, and we both agreed to disagree and left it there with a solid no. So that's all I'll say about that. But anyways, let's get my final thoughts.
Game over!
Overall, Dumbsville's analysis, well, I'll just use his own words.
This video is fucking dog shit.
The guy had like 2 decent points, but the rest of it was just ironic, coming from someone who quite literally uploaded a 30-minute slander piece accusing someone of being one of the worst things ever.
So this is when he messaged me. Apparently, well no, it's not apparently, it's confirmed that Dream wasn't talking to He's not a groomer. He's not a pedophile, alright?
And treating it as if it was a haha funny joke.
I want Snapchat, I want monies. I want Snapchat, I want monies. I want Snapchat, I want monies. Yeah, I want that Snapchat from them. Yeah, I love my fucking monies. I'm in love with all my monies. I'm in love with all my monies. I'm in love with all my monies.
He will do that, but then not realize maybe that doesn't make people who associate with me or acknowledge me any worse or any bad. And it's amazing how he will accuse Vivziepop of being things like tone deaf, or kind of shame her for standing up for a worker, or saying that not everyone who I hire 100% agrees with me, but then in the same breath can't realize that the same thing could be said about his workers, friends, or content creators he's associated with. Like, just because you made this mixtape doesn't mean that every single person who now associates with you should immediately be cut off or is immediately a bad person who endorses this, because that's not reality. People are going to agree to disagree with others, and that's it. You can't do anything about that. What Vivziepop is saying isn't that crazy. People are going to disagree with me or disagree with my perception, and that's okay. What I'm not gonna do is demand that they be fired. Just like how if you had an editor and this editor disagreed with you on certain things or certain perspectives, you wouldn't fire this editor just because someone on Twitter or Instagram told you so. Ultimately, I'll just leave it off with this. Dumbsville, considering what you're saying within this quote-unquote diss track is defamation.
Hard kid, she 14. I love kids, so I'm more than understand. The cusp door, if you are 14, you can come up in my trap.
I suggest you take it down, but that aside, I'm going to wish you all well. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.